She stood frozen, heart hammering as the officer blocked him. No entry, he barked, eyes cold, dismissive. Elias, her husband, a black veteran who'd faced war's worst, stood there, shrinking. His Navy cross, his scars, none of it mattered. They saw his skin, not his service. She wanted to scream, to make them see him. Then his lawyer strode up, and the whole scene flipped. You won't believe what happened, or what it broke in them. I never thought I'd be fighting for my husband just to walk through a courthouse door. Elias is my everything. 20 years married, 2 kids, a life built on his quiet strength. He's a Marine, served in Fallujah, carried his bleeding squad leader through gunfire to safety. Shrapnel still lodged in his back, a reminder he carries without complaint. He's got a Navy Cross, upgraded from a Silver Star, for God's sake. That's who he is, a man who doesn't bend, who doesn't quit. But that day, outside that Georgia courthouse, I saw something I'd never seen in him before defeat. It gutted me. It all started over something so small, so stupid. A $1.75 parking ticket. The meter was broken, but the city didn't care. Elias, being Elias, wasn't about to let it slide. He's not the type to roll over when something's wrong. I'll fight it, he said, calm as ever, like he was planning a grocery run. I loved that about him. His principle, his refusal to let even the little injustices pass. So we dressed up, him in his best suit, me in the Navy dress he always said brought out my eyes, and we drove to the courthouse to contest it. Just a quick hearing, in and out. That's what we thought. We got there early because Elias is never late. The courthouse loomed, all white columns and authority, the kind of place that's supposed to stand for justice. He squeezed my hand as we walked up, his calloused fingers steadying me like always. But at the entrance, an officer, white, maybe mid-40s, badge gleaming, stepped in front of us. ID, he said, barely looking up. Elias handed over his driver's license, his VA card right beside it, like he always does. The officer glanced at it, then at Elias, and his face hardened. You can't come in, he said flat, like it was nothing. I laughed at first, thinking it was a mistake. What do you mean we have a hearing? I stepped forward, my voice sharp, but Elias put a hand on my arm. Lena, let me handle it, he said softly. He always does that, tries to keep things calm to protect me from his battles, but I could see his jaw tighten. He asked the officer, polite as ever, sir, can you tell me why? The officer didn't even meet his eyes. Court's full, wait outside. Full. I looked past him. People were walking in, no problem. White people, I noticed. My stomach twisted. Lena. Elias said again, quieter now, but I was already talking. This is ridiculous. He's a veteran. He has a right to be here. The officer's eyes flicked to me, annoyed, like I was a bug buzzing too loud. Ma'am, step back. Step back. I wanted to shove that badge down his throat. Elias, though, he just stood there, still as stone, his shoulders slumping just a fraction. That tiny shift broke my heart. This man who'd faced death without flinching was being told he didn't belong. And for what? A broken meter, or something else? We stood outside for 20 minutes, the Georgia heat sticking my dress to my skin. Elias didn't say much, just stared at the ground, his hands clasped tight. I kept talking, trying to fill the silence, but my words felt hollow. This is wrong, Elias. We should call someone, the news maybe. He shook his head. It's not worth it, Lena. Not worth it. That wasn't him. That wasn't my husband. I wanted to grab him, shake him, make him fight like he always did. But his eyes, they were distant, like he was somewhere else, somewhere I couldn't reach. I kept glancing at the door, watching people breeze in and out, no questions asked. I started to wonder if it was the suit, too worn at the cuffs, or the way we stood, too proud, too black. My mind was spinning, picking apart every detail, trying to make sense of it. Elias just waited, patient, like he'd learned to wait in war, in hospitals, in life. But I could feel it, the weight of every time he'd been dismissed, every time he'd had to prove he was enough. It was all piling up, right there on that courthouse step. Then the lawyer showed up. Marcus, a friend from Elias's unit who'd gone to law school after his discharge, pulled up in his beat-up Honda, tie slightly crooked, briefcase swinging. He saw us standing outside and frowned. Why aren't you inside? Hearing's in 10. I opened my mouth, but Elias spoke first, his voice low. They won't let me in. Marcus stopped, looked from Elias to the officer, who was now leaning against the wall, scrolling his phone like we didn't exist. "What do you mean, won't let you in?" Marcus's voice had that edge, the one he used to use when chewing out a private for screwing up. The officer looked up, unbothered. "Court's full," told him to wait. Marcus's eyes narrowed. "Full, I just called the clerk. There's plenty of room." He stepped closer, not aggressive, but firm, like he was squaring up for a fight. "This man's a veteran, Navy Cross recipient. He's got a hearing in there, and you're holding him up. Why?" The officer straightened, his hand twitching toward his belt, but he didn't answer. I could feel the tension, like a wire pulled tight, ready to snap. Marcus didn't back down. He pulled out his bar card, held it up. "I'm his counsel. You're delaying a court proceeding. Want to explain that to the judge." The officer's face shifted, still hard, but uncertain now. He muttered something about checking with his supervisor and waved us through, like it was nothing, like he hadn't just stripped Elias of his dignity for no reason. We walked inside, but the air felt heavier, like we'd carried that moment in with us. The hearing itself was quick. The judge, an older white woman with sharp eyes, listened to Marcus lay out the case. Broken meter, no signage, photos Elias had taken as proof. She tossed the ticket in under 5 minutes. "Dismissed," she said, her gavel a sharp crack. I should have felt relief, but I didn't. Elias didn't either. He thanked Marcus, shook his hand, but his smile was tight, forced. I knew that look. He was holding it together for me, for Marcus, for the world. But inside, he was breaking. We walked out, past the same officer who didn't look at us. I wanted to say something, anything, to make him feel what he'd done. But Elias kept walking, his hand in mine, guiding me to the car. He didn't talk about it, not then, not on the drive home. I filled the silence again, ranting about the officer, the system, the unfairness of it all. "We should file a complaint, Elias. This isn't right." He just nodded, eyes on the road. "Maybe," he said, but I knew he wouldn't. He never did. He'd always say, "Pick your battles, Lena." But how many battles could a man pick before he ran out of fight? That night, he didn't sleep. I heard him pacing in the living room, the floor creaking under his weight. I lay in bed, staring at the ceiling, replaying it all. The officer's voice, Elias's slumped shoulders, the way Marcus had to show up for the doors to open. It wasn't just about a ticket anymore. It was about every time Elias had been made to feel small, every time he'd had to prove he belonged. I thought about his stories from the Marines, how he'd been passed over for promotions, how his CO once called him boy in front of the unit. He'd laughed it off then, but I saw the hurt. I always saw it.